Good morning, wrestling fans. Welcome to PWR Today. It's Friday morning. We made it through the week, guys. It's July 10th, 2020. I'm the man they call Meathead. We appreciate the comments. We appreciate the likes and subscribes. It's working. It is working. You like me. You really like me. But for those that haven't yet, get on over to Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Fight TV, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you're hearing us. Like, subscribe, comment. It is working, folks. It is really working. So the end of my 3-day week run again with Matthew Thomas is this morning. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning. Well, I guess it's technically the end of the week, but I mean, I'm kind of becoming the midweek treat.
Unfortunately, you're going to be the bookend to Mr. Damian Nelson. I have received notification.
Man, yeah, it doesn't sound that good when you say it. It doesn't roll off the tongue.
No, I've received notification that Damian Nelson will be here next week Thursday, to address the fact of where he's been and why he hasn't been here. So I look forward to Damian Nelson, the owner and proprietor of PWR 360, the Pro Wrestling Report. It's going to happen next week Thursday. But enough of that. Let's talk about Matthew Thomas and Meathead. So we didn't really have a lot of hot news for Friday morning, right? And we had just gotten off a really hot, discussion yesterday morning over Wednesday night's wrestling action. Here's what I did. Digging around in the WWE Network, I found a little gem that I'm asking you to watch too. You're not going to be able to watch it right now, or you stop this, rewind it, and watch along with us talking. Untold. Matthew, had you heard of this series before I sent you the message?
Yeah, I've actually I've watched every Untold that the network has done. I'm a huge fan of this series.
So when I said what we were going to watch, you had already seen it.
I'd already seen it, but because I am the professional journalist that I am,
rewatched.
I went back and rewatched it again just so it was fresh in my brain space.
Gotcha. We watched Untold, Rodman, Malone. Now, if I say Rodman, Malone, and we talk wrestling, does anybody know what the hell we're talking about?
Of course we do.
I'm talking WCW. I'm talking The Worm, Rodzilla, Dennis Rodman from the Chicago Bulls taking on the mailman, Karl Malone from the Utah Jazz. I love the build to this. I love the way it built, this story. I mean, think about 1998. Think about this. The Jazz and the Bulls were just about to compete and face each other for the second time in a row in the NBA championship, in the finals. We're going to take all the heat. We're going to take all the, just the tension from the NBA Finals, and we're going to put it in a wrestling ring. Can you imagine in 1998, the buzz? I mean, I can imagine because I was there and I watched it. But just the buzz in the, the normal media. Because wrestling, folks, for those that are a little bit younger listening to this podcast, wrestling back in 1998 was still awesome. It was still cool. But it was only awesome and cool to wrestling fans. It's not like it is today where it's free on Fox. It's, they're in bed with CBS and, all the other mainstream media. Back then, wrestling was a joke. And it's funny, when I watch all the older broadcasters talk about how great wrestling is now, they're the ones that used to mock it. But now they're paid to say that it's fine. So now that WWE and Vince McMahon and, has kind of infiltrated all the major networks in the mainstream media, it's accepted. This kind of match wouldn't draw that kind of buzz. But in 1998, having Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone signed for a match at Bash at the Beach, right after the NBA Finals, this was a huge deal.
And this was not your typical celebrity fare. You think back a few years prior to this with LT coming into the WWF after he had retired. These are two people at the prime of their careers at the top. I mean, just coming out of the finals, going into a wrestling match, something that would I cannot imagine any scenario where it would ever happen today, where any team would ever sign off on this. No. In this era of, not that you didn't have multi-million-dollar contracts back in the day, but to let two top talent go into a wrestling ring, it wouldn't happen. So yeah, this was huge then, and even putting today's lenses on it, it just shows you how unprecedented it was.
Especially with the no compete, restrictions on off-season activities. I mean, look at Patrick Mahomes' contract that he just signed, that $500 million or whatever it was. I mean, there's a lot of stuff he can't do in life anymore. Otherwise, he negates his contract. So yeah, this is something that couldn't happen anymore. There's a couple other things that happened during this that absolutely wouldn't happen anymore. there is the story, and it was confirmed in this, that Dennis Rodman blew off a practice during the finals to show up on Monday Nitro.
Yeah, absolute craziness. And it gives us the great line of Hulk Hogan saying, "Phil Jackson's blowing up my phone, brother," which I quite enjoyed. But yeah, I mean, this is ditching practice to go to Nitro. I mean, just absolutely unprecedented. And the comment was made, I think it was Bischoff that made the comment in this, that, it never happened before, and, it will most likely never happen again, which I strongly agree with. Here's the thing too, we've got to really encapsulate it. You've got to look at who Dennis Rodman was during this time period and what a sensation he was. He made the comment during this, if social media had been around during that time, I'd be a billionaire. I don't know that Dennis Rodman would have had a career in professional sports had social media been around at that time. I mean,
are you talking about the other story they mentioned when Eric says, sure, we'll get him a bus. That's fine.
Yeah. It's just, it doesn't, in a lot of ways, late 90s doesn't seem that long ago, but in a lot of ways, it seems like it's been lifetimes ago. Yeah.
So, I mean, folks, if you haven't seen this, make sure you check out WWE Untold. The stories are legendary. And it's ironic, and Bischoff shied away from saying it, and Hogan kind of shied away, and DDP shied away from saying it. But these guys, when they were in Hotlanta, I mean, there is a legendary story out there of all of them getting in trouble in strip clubs because, I mean, Scores or whatever the national franchise one that was down there, these guys were there all the time because, again, the top tier talent weren't really on the road, so you just had to be available for Monday night and Tuesday night if you were tapped to go to Thunder, because they were taping Thunders on Tuesdays, and they barely showed up on Thunders anyway. So these guys only had to show up to work once a week and were getting paid, guaranteed multi-million-dollar contracts. So they had nothing else to do.
Or in some cases, not having to show up to work at all.
Right.
That was the famous deal that I believe the Genius had when he had his WCW run, right?
That was Lanny Poffo, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He was paid to stay home. So, man, the life. But more to this Untold here. Again, it's funny how we hear the old school wrestling in DDP, and we heard it coming out of Rodman in different words, but you could hear DDP talking through Rodman about how, Rodman said that DDP was kind of a punk bitch at sometimes. He really hit me a few times. Yeah, dummy, it's wrestling, and you didn't respect it. That's why he hit you.
And
you could hear
honestly,
DDP coming through that.
Something that does not come across good at all, especially now in the retrospect of Rodman borderline now bragging about how messed up he was going into the match, or at the very least how hungover he was from the night before. And I mean, just going into something like this where you're working with somebody, having to protect the people that are in the ring with you, just to acknowledge that, with any type of hindsight, bragging, that did not come across well.
No. By the way, Karl Malone, holy ripped, dude. And the wingspan on that guy. Dude, he was reaching out for a tag and he almost touched Rodman on the other side.
Yeah, he was. The comment was made, I think it was Rodman or somebody in the documentary said he looked like a wrestler, and I do not disagree with that at all.
Yeah, that big high boot, dude, that was like a 7-foot tall boot. Yeah.
And here's the cool thing with Malone too. I mean, just the perception that I got from the angle and from this, it sounded like Malone was a guy who was always interested in wrestling and really took
Rodman
this serious
to some point.
Yeah. But it just, you look at the preparation and you look at the seriousness that this match was given from Malone. Like, it's really good to see celebrity involvement from people who are happy to be there and proud to be there and will put forth the work and the effort.
Speaking of, who else was on this card? I went back and rewatched Bash at the Beach 98. One of the guys that, we didn't goof on him, but one of the celebrity, other sport wrestlers was on. Kevin Green wrestled on this card again.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
Well,
Kevin Green wrestled, I almost said the Big Show, the Giant.
It's about that time though, because that's when Green would circle back around. He'd circle back around in the summer when, the NFL season was not going on. So
No, Kevin Green was on this card. Let's talk about this card real quick too, and we'll come back to it. This card was huge. I mean, I just want to run down some of these matches. Raven, in good shape, by the way, with Riggs and Lodi, defeats Saturn. Juventud Guerrero, this is post-mass, so you can see Pretty Boy Juventud, defeated Billy Kidman. This is Kidman still in the flock, so he looked a little dirty. Bobby Heenan mentions on there, he's got his cleanest dirty jeans on.
Well, that's what you got to wear to the pay-per-views.
Yeah, he didn't look disheveled. Kidman in the flock was actually pretty funny to me. Where he'd scratch his chest, goes, I just feel itchy. Stevie Ray wrestles Chavo Guerrero wearing a Eddie Guerrero is my favorite wrestler t-shirt, by far one of my favorite t-shirts of all time. And he took this match knowing that he had a hair match later on with Uncle Eddie. Uncle Eddie, I'm ready. Stevie Ray defeats Chavo by quote-unquote submission. And then Eddie Guerrero defeats Chavo Guerrero. So Chavo's supposed to get shaved by Eddie, right? Chavo chases after Eddie to shave his head and then shaves his own head. It was comedy gold.
That's fantastic.
It was fantastic. Conan, this is Wolfpack era Conan with Lex Luger and Kevin Nash, Body, Rowdy, all that. Kevin Nash says some sort of hip hop phrase and, walks off and gets paid $1 million or something. Defeats the Dancing Fools, Disco Inferno with Alex Red at his side. Again, classic stuff. The Giant defeats Kevin Green. Chris Jericho was in the middle of his huge Dean Malenko feud. He went to Congress trying to get Dean Malenko disbarred or something like that. This Bash at the Beach wasn't in Orlando this year. It was in San Diego. So J.J. Dillon comes out and says, well, we know Malenko's been suspended, and I'll tell you what. You wanted to wrestle? I got a local guy here from San Diego. If he would have said from the 619 area code, I would have lost it. A local boy from San Diego, Rey Mysterio Jr., just returning from a 6-month absence where Jericho had broke his knee. So Jericho loses to Mysterio, and it was a no DQ match for the Cruiserweight Championship. Dude, Booker T defeated Bret Hart. This is already past Montreal Screwjob.
Wow.
Goldberg had just won the belt 4 nights ago against Hogan on Nitro, or 6 nights ago, defeats Kurt Hennig, and the main event was Hollywood Hogan and Dennis Rodman with the Disciple on the side, defeating DDP and Karl Malone. Holy smokes, man.
Yeah. Loaded card, and then you've also got into the time frame. You're coming off the heels of one of the biggest Nitros ever in the Georgia Dome with Goldberg picking up the title.
Yeah, the biggest. And it's ironic too because the end of the match, Goldberg technically gets the win due to chairs from DDP and Karl Malone.
Yeah.
So I missed the time. Our goal when we were doing the retro Nitros was to get to this time because we could talk and have fun with it every week. We never made it. The PWR went off into the sunset at that point. So I think we made it up to pre-Sting Hogan. We might have got Sting interacting with Hogan like 97. So we might have made it Fall Brawl 97, but we never made it up to this era. This is the golden age. And you and I talked off air before. WCW was the sweet spot.
We'll have to go back and look, but I think we got to Great American Bash 97. I think we capped it at Great American Bash.
Okay. Rodman wrestled at a Great American Bash or a Bash at the Beach 97.
Yeah.
So, this was the golden age. And Bischoff said it perfectly, going back to WWE Untold. To get this mainstream media attention advertising, I couldn't afford it and could never get it. Because, again, this was 98. All the major news outlets are going to be talking about this. Rodman skipped NBA Finals practice to come to Monday Nitro and hit, DDP over the back with a chair.
And you're still in an era where, you're getting post 97, so you're getting there. But I feel like the vibe in 98, the business had not been completely exposed. You were not at a point where you had the WWE shoot biographies, you had the WWE shoot documentaries where everybody was completely out of character. You were still there where your average casual viewer that was coming in from the mainstream media attention was like, wait a minute, is this legit? What's going on? Are they, so it was still an element of mystery to the casual viewer that I don't feel like is there to the casual viewer at present day.
Right. This was amazing. I wish we'd have made it because, like I was saying when we talked off air, this was the sweet spot. Goldberg stays undefeated up until December-ish, gets hit with a taser by Scott Hall, loses the belt to Kevin Nash. The next night, the finger poke of doom. Yeah. And that was the end of WCW. It hurts because for those of you that know, I'm at WCW Meathead on Twitter, at WCW. That's been my name. It's been my name for a very long time. And yeah, that was it. I was there for all the Nitro run. I enjoyed it. I look back on it fondly. I have a friend that lives out in Panama City Beach, suburb of Panama City Beach. And I've gone by there. And just, where they used to have the Nitros, the spring break Nitros. If only they were still around, they'd still be running these shows. I can come down and visit. Nope.
It's perfect. You bump into Shane McMahon when he was there.
Yep, because here comes the money. Rewatching the Bash of the Beach pay-per-view again, are you still irritated as I am, or as irritated as I am? When Jericho came out, did you hear his entrance music?
No, but I imagine that it was not his original entrance music.
It wasn't his WCW music. It was his WWE music, Break the Walls Down, edited over the top. Now, I wondered about that, and I kind of talked it out to myself. I believe this is the case that, WCW got bought by WWE, right? That's that whole line Damien used to say to me for 20 years. The music Jericho came out to was TNT filler music owned by Turner Broadcasting. So did they not get the rights to that music? Is that the deal?
That's a good question.
Because Jericho... in my interview with him that I did on ESPN Radio, some years ago, had mentioned that music, he was kind of pissed off because here he is watching basketball one night and here's his entrance music over some scores.
Oh, man.
Well, again, WWE Untold, the story of Rodman and Malone, which actually led us into, I want to talk about this one more thing, it led us into the next pay-per-view. Matthew, without using the internet, without giving it a Google, what was the next pay-per-view main event at Hog Wild or Road Wild, depending on which one it was?
Was that the year we got Leno?
That was the year he got Leno.
Yeah.
It was built off of this one because it was still DDP. DDP got Leno this time, and then Hogan got Bischoff because that's when Bischoff ran his own, took over the Tonight Show, ran his own talk show on Nitro. So, yeah. Had Liz sitting on the side.
What a crazy time to have the Night Show as the jumping off point for wrestling angles.
Twice. Because again, it jumped off because that's kind of how it set off. You had Hogan and Bischoff, it was Hogan and Rodman sitting on the couch, and all of a sudden DDP and Karl Malone came out of the wings and went after him on the Tonight Show. I mean, we haven't seen anything like that since Andy Kaufman went after Jerry the King.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Amazing times, folks. Maybe one of these days we'll go back and do some of those Nitros again. Matthew, anything else you got to add before we get off the air here?
No, speaking of entrance music, though, I did today out of nowhere, I heard very loudly AJ Styles entrance music, and I was excited because I thought maybe AJ Styles was coming to visit me or fight me or something, but no, it was a gentleman driving a mattress truck, but apparently he likes AJ Styles' entrance music as well.
Well, the problem is the mattress he was driving, they don't want none. He's working for a company that really nobody likes their mattresses. They don't want none.
not much of a market for aftermarket mattresses during this era, that's for sure.
There is not, especially not in the Denver, Colorado, Rocky Mountain area. So, all right. Folks, again, make sure you're helping us out. Like I said, it's making a difference. I watch the stats. I watch the numbers. They are going up. Well, they're going up from where they were before, and they're continuing to rise. Hit us up, like, subscribe, Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcast, Fight TV, Stitcher, Spotify, your grandma's phonograph record, whatever you're listening to on us. Make sure
Rotary
you're giving
telephones.
Yeah, it could be. Give us a like and a subscribe. Make a difference. Make a comment, and we've got more content for you. Speaking of content, a brand new prime time just popped last night, I think it was, with Shane Helms, right?
Yeah, hot off the press.
I believe Extreme Rules is next week Sunday, so I know there's going to be a booker. I'd like to see Shane Helms and David Hero book who's going to lose an eyeball.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow.
Worth tuning into. All right, so for Matthew Thomas, I'm the man they call Meathead. Thanks for stopping by. So long, everyone.